Tonight, wild weather ahead of Memorial Day.
Everything I heard was that this was going to be an insane weekend to travel.
We're tracking severe storms after the wind from the same weather system leads to a deadly stage collapse in Mexico and tornadoes in Texas.
I call my daughter and I tell her, I'm gonna die.
The CBS Evening News starts now. More than 30 million people under threat of severe weather tonight from Texas to Maine. Good evening. I'm Norah O'Donnell, and thank you for being with us. Thunderstorms, damaging winds, very large hail, and even tornadoes, all possible as tens of millions of Americans hit the roads and airports. More than 12,000 flights have been delayed and more than 700 canceled over the last 2 days. The FAA says that today is the busiest day for the airlines this holiday weekend, with more than 53,500 flights scheduled at the nation's airports. CBS's Omar Villafranca will start us off tonight with the severe weather that turned deadly across the border in Mexico.
Shocking video shows the moment a campaign rally in Mexico turned into a catastrophe. 10,000 people were attending an event featuring long-shot presidential candidate Jorge Maynes when wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour blew down the stage he was on. Metal beams, lights, and a video screen crashed down onto the crowd below. At least 9 people were killed, including 1 child. More than 120 were injured. Bystanders scrambled to help victims trapped under the twisted rubble as the grassy field became a makeshift triage center. It hurts a lot and I can't move, said this woman. The local governor says first responders are still on the scene.
We've
worked hard. We haven't stopped working since the tragedy happened, he told reporters. The same storm system brought wind gusts over 120 miles an hour to central Texas, spinning up an EF2 tornado that tore through the city of Temple.
I couldn't believe what was going on. Everything was over, but I couldn't believe what was going on. My house is demolished.
An emergency was declared after hundreds of homes in a new subdivision were damaged or destroyed. Luckily, no injuries. While in the Northeast, heavy rains caused flooding from New York City to New England. In Rhode Island, traffic came to a halt as flash flooding shut down major roadways, leaving some drivers stranded in their cars. About 60,000 people in central Texas are still without power after those storms. Crews are working nonstop, but Nora, there is more severe weather in the forecast.
Omar Villafranca, thank you. The threat of that severe weather, as he said, is far from over heading into the holiday weekend. Let's bring in meteorologist Mike Bettis. He's with our partners at the Weather Channel for more details. Good evening, Mike.
Nora, good evening. A lot of severe storms in our forecast tonight, tomorrow, and right into the holiday weekend as well. You can see that through the night tonight, an area through the plains, it'll be very anxious with storms. A lot of heavy weather here, including high winds and hail, isolated tornado risks as well. As we work our way overnight, a lot of storms through the Midwest. Those storms hit us in Milwaukee and Chicago middle of the day tomorrow. Now, going into the weekend, Saturday provides a lot of severe weather in the middle of the country once again. And then on Sunday, a larger area of severe weather from the Midwest all the way down to the mid-south. Memorial Day itself very active in the east. A lot of issues on I-95, I-75, I-70, I-40, I-94. Heads up Chicago and Atlanta could have some delays at the airports. The west, though, high and dry. The other big news happening today is that NOAA released its seasonal forecast for hurricanes. The average of the last 30 years is 14 named storms each and every year. We've been quite a bit above that the last few years. Forecast is 17 to 25, falling in line with the forecast from Colorado State University, meaning Nora could be very active and very dangerous hurricane season ahead.
All right, good information, Mike. Thank you. Today, Louisville police released 2 new videos of the arrest of the world's #1 ranked golfer, Scottie Scheffler. This is from a pole camera across the street. You see Scheffler trying to enter a parking lot before the PGA tournament at Valhalla Golf Club, then stopping as an officer in reflective gear chases him down. He's later handcuffed, and then dash camera video shows him being walked to the patrol car. Scheffler is accused of felony assault of an officer after allegedly dragging one with his car, something that Scheffler denies. Louisville's mayor says the city is not aware at this time of any other video of the moment. That includes footage from the arresting officer's body cam. That officer has been disciplined for failing to turn it on. Ticketmaster, which famously botched the pre-sale of tickets to Taylor Swift's Eras tour, was hit today with a sweeping antitrust lawsuit. The Justice Department is accusing Ticketmaster and its parent company, Live Nation, of running an illegal monopoly and driving up prices. We get details from CBS's Meg Oliver.
It is time for fans and artists to stop paying the price for Live Nation's monopoly.
Tonight, there's bad blood between the Department of Justice and Live Nation, the entertainment giant that owns Ticketmaster.
It is time to break it up. The American people are ready for it.
The DOJ's civil lawsuit with 29 states and the District of Columbia alleges a litany of unfair practices, including retaliating against venues that work with rivals to blocking venues from using other ticket outlets. The DOJ says the massive live entertainment company controls at least 80% of primary ticketing at major venues, manages more than 400 artists, and controls more than 60% of concert promotions across the country.
There was service fees and tax, and it hurts.
In a statement, Live Nation says the lawsuit won't reduce ticket prices or service fees. Artist teams set prices for their tickets.
So if they break up Live Nation, what does that mean for consumers' pocketbooks?
In the short term, I would say that the ticketing process could get more chaotic and prices could go up. In the long term, one would hope it would make things better.
Last year, Live Nation raked in close to $23 billion with 145 million fans going to live events. Tonight here at MetLife Stadium, unlike other concerts with sky-high ticket prices, these fans are getting what they want from the Rolling Stones. They can be in the audience for as low as $70. Nora?
Sounds like they will get some satisfaction. Meg Oliver, thank you. Louisiana is now on the verge of becoming the first state in the country to reclassify 2 commonly used abortion drugs as controlled and dangerous substances. CBS's Caitlin Huey-Burns is here with the details. It's a big story. What does the bill do?
Well, this is supposed to be headed to the governor's desk. He's expected to sign it, and it is likely to make it, it will make it illegal to possess mifepristone and misoprostol without a prescription in the state. And that's punishable by up to 10 years in prison and $75,000 in fines. Now, this drug combination was used in more than half of abortions nationwide last year, and the FDA says it's effective.
So abortions are already illegal in Louisiana. So what practical effect does this have?
Well, this could make it harder for physicians to prescribe the drugs, which are used to treat other conditions and to manage miscarriages. The reclassification would require doctors to have a special license to write a prescription, and the drugs would have to be stored in certain facilities. Hundreds of doctors in Louisiana say they oppose this because it could delay care. And Louisiana has one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the country. And in the midst of all of this, we're awaiting a decision from the Supreme Court on mifepristone, which could impose a nationwide ban. And a decision on that is expected at the end of June. Nora.
We'll be watching very closely. Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you so much. An American soldier is in critical condition at an Israeli hospital tonight, injured in a forklift accident while working on the floating pier off the coast of the Gaza Strip. 2 other soldiers were also hurt in a separate accident, but they are expected to return to duty. And humanitarian aid is once again flowing from that U.S.-made pier, according to the United Nations. Deliveries were halted over the weekend after a convoy of trucks was looted by Palestinians desperate for food and supplies. Earlier this evening, police broke up a pro-Palestinian protest on the campus of UCLA. Officers moved in after demonstrators set up tents and barricades and then climbed onto the roof of a building and tried to lock officers out of another building. And earlier today, UCLA's chancellor was testifying on Capitol Hill to the handling of campus protests and a rise in anti-Semitic incidents. The presidents of Northwestern and Rutgers University defended their decisions to end pro-Palestinian encampments through negotiations rather than police force. Calls are growing for Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito to recuse himself from any cases that involve the January 6th assault, Donald Trump, and election integrity. And this comes after photos surfaced of provocative flags linked to the Capitol insurrection being displayed at 2 homes owned by Alito. CBS's Scott McFarland has the new developments.
A political distress flag. Tonight, more calls for conservative Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito to recuse himself from two pending cases involving January 6th, including on the question of whether Donald Trump can be prosecuted.
The Supreme Court has chosen to conduct itself as if the judiciary is above the law.
This amid reports by the New York Times an Appeal to Heaven flag was flying last summer outside Alito's New Jersey vacation home. The flag represented the fight for independence during the American Revolution, but it took on new meaning in 2021 when it was seen wielded on the front lines by January 6th rioters. The revelation came just days after Alito acknowledged an upside-down U.S. flag, also carried by January 6 rioters, hung briefly outside his Virginia home, days after the U.S. Capitol siege. Alito said he had no involvement whatsoever, that his wife hung the flag amid a dispute with neighbors. Many Republicans stood by Alito today.
Any concern about there being a flag there?
People who are judges on the Supreme Courts have personal lives, they have families, and I don't think they're necessarily responsible for everything their families do or say.
And the GOP is expected to block any efforts by Democrats to pass new ethics rules for the High Court, which has a code but polices itself.
There is literally no place else in the federal government in which an allegation against an official is raised and there is not even fact-finding done.
New polling shows public approval of the court has plummeted in just the last 4 years.
I think at the very least we need more answers to questions about the second flag and about his involvement and about whether he tried to distance himself from it, because a flag outside of his house reasonably appears to represent his own views of the merits of the case.
Alito did not return our request for comment on the flag controversies, but he and the rest of the court are set to rule on two big cases related to January 6th and the 2020 election in the coming weeks, if not the coming days, Nora.
Scott McFarland, thank you for that update. The good news, it probably won't cost you more to travel this holiday weekend, but it's a different story when you get there. We'll explain. And later, Eye on America. Young adults are less BYOB and more BYOC. Bring your own cannabis. If you're vacation bound this holiday weekend, buckle up for higher prices when you get there. CBS's Chris Van Cleve reports on the high cost of getting away.
Janet Corrin is enjoying an early Memorial Day getaway with her daughter and grandson. Beating the rush scored her a deal on an oceanfront Virginia Beach hotel.
Does it feel like it's more expensive to go places right now?
It is, but yeah, you have to just keep hoping that things will change and still enjoy yourself as you can.
Compared to Memorial Day 2023, the overall cost of travel is actually down slightly. Hotel prices edged lower, airfare descended by nearly 6%, and rental car costs slowed by 10%. But vacationing in 2024 still costs you 15% more than pre-pandemic. And this year, airlines raised checked bag fees ahead of the summer rush. Sally French tracks vacation inflation for NerdWallet.
That could be $5 and then multiply that times 2 for your round trip, multiply that times 4 for your family of 4, and you're seeing that the cost of travel actually does feel like it's going up.
Doing things on vacation is more expensive this year, and eating out will take a bite out of your wallet, up more than 4% and nearly 30% higher than 2019.
A lot of people won't budget restaurant prices when they're making that initial vacation plan. They're budgeting out the price of their hotel and their airfare.
For the 38.4 million Americans expected to drive this Memorial Day, gas prices are only slightly higher than a year ago.
Most of the summer this year could be very close to last year. Prices well below the records that we saw in 2022, and not a bad time for Americans to hit the road.
You can often save money by being flexible when and where you travel. Traveling on off-peak days, we saved hundreds of dollars coming to Virginia Beach instead of Miami Beach. And experts say don't save those travel points. Use them as you get them to cut your costs because they do not hold their value over time, Nora.
Good information. The beach looks nice. Chris Van Cleve, thank you. Eye on America is next with the generational shift when it comes to marijuana use in the U.S. With recreational marijuana now legal in 24 states, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration is moving to reclassify the drug to a less dangerous category under the Controlled Substances Act. And for the first time, a new survey shows that daily marijuana users now outnumber daily drinkers. In tonight's Eye on America, Nikki Batiste reports that it's a development driven by Gen Z.
Behind this cloud of marijuana smoke is a new kind of office for Gen Zers.
Here, we smoke because it enhances our work. That's our secret sauce.
Work and Roll is a shared workspace in New York City where, for as little as $15, you can toke while you type. This downtown loft space is capitalizing on a trend among today's young workers. Forget after-work happy hour at a favorite watering hole. Weed is the new way to go.
I think this is like the mecca of the cannabis industry.
Matthew Everett, Golda Moldovsky, and Ellis Sudak, all in their mid-20s, are like the 69% of people their age who say they prefer marijuana to alcohol, according to a cannabis research firm.
I transitioned over into cannabis because I saw that there's limitless possibilities with the flavors, and I found, like, hey, I don't have a hangover the next day, too.
Were any of you big alcohol drinkers?
I was, yeah.
Marijuana sales among Gen Z women in particular have more than doubled since the pandemic lockdown in 2020. At Work and Roll, alcohol is prohibited, but it's perfectly fine to bring your own cannabis or even have it delivered.
Cannabis to your door.
Cannabis to your door.
No stigma, no criminality, no problem.
It's alarming.
The alarm, says addiction psychiatrist Colin Reeve, comes from the scientific evidence. One recent study associates schizophrenia with excessive cannabis use among some young people, especially young men, at an age when their brains are still maturing.
Legalized age for cannabis should be around 33 years old, when people are outside the window of developing schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and a lot of other things. Or most certainly it should be after 26, once the prefrontal cortex is done developing.
Do patients come in and say, I'm smoking pot because it's better for me than alcohol?
Yeah, and people come in and they tell me, hey, cannabis is healthy, right? I can use it. Or people say, hey, cannabis is used for pain. Doesn't mean it's healthy. It means it's being used as a medicine by those people.
It's still a drug.
It's still a drug.
Potency is the key. According to the latest figures, the average level of THC, that's the main ingredient in marijuana that triggers a high, jumped from 4% in 1995 to more than 15% in 2021. A four-fold increase. But for these friends, those numbers don't tell the whole story.
Over time, as I started educating my parents more, they started to understand that cannabis was less destructive to my lifestyle than alcohol. And I even got them to try cannabis.
And how did that go?
They enjoyed it. My mom, she had cancer, and it helped to alleviate some of her symptoms. And for my dad's part, he thought it was pretty fun.
Do you ever miss alcohol?
I never thought about it being here, honestly.
I don't miss it.
This next generation is giving new meaning to the phrase high and dry. For Eye on America, I'm Nikki Batiste in New York City.
Coming up, a United Airlines pilot flies off into retirement after a trailblazing career in the sky. That's next. Finally, tonight's Heart of America. Meet Captain Teresa Claiborne from Emporia, Virginia. She is retiring after completing her final flight today from Lisbon, Portugal to Newark, New Jersey, marking 34 years at United Airlines with a full-water cannon salute. Claiborne was the first Black woman pilot in the U.S. Air Force and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in 1981. But her career of service didn't end there. She's also the president of Sisters of the Skies, a nonprofit that mentors young women of color looking to become pilots. Captain Claiborne had this advice for future pilots.
Number one, you have to know how to do your job. And that's what I tell people. Don't look for any handouts. Just go in there and do it. You know, you work, and then at the end of the rainbow, there's a lot of color.
Well, congratulations to Captain Teresa Claiborne. She is tonight's Heart of America. And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. I'm Nora O'Donnell. Good night.